Running a business definitely takes a personality type that is not risk averse. So you have to be pretty comfortable balancing risk. And there was a lot of months where I had 1 month of savings in my bank account where if I made no money, I would be out of money in 30 days. That happened a lot. If you're going to start your own business, if your goal is just to make money, you're probably going to be a good manager, but you probably won't be good at doing the work. You're going to want to hire someone that has a passion for that kind of work.